What keeps a person alive when comfort is gone? Not entertained, not distracted, alive, inwardly alive, when the world has become almost nothing but hunger, cold, fear, and loss. Frankl's answer is not one thing. Welcome back. In this second part of Man's Search for Meaning, the book shows meaning appearing through love, through future work, through responsibility, and through the way a person bears suffering that cannot be escaped. The key shift is simple but demanding. Life is not mainly something we interrogate. Life is something that interrogates us. One of the most moving strands in the memoir is Frankl's experience of love. He thinks of his wife while marching in terrible conditions, and the memory is not merely sentimental. It becomes a form of presence. Love, for Frankl, is not reduced to possession. He does not need certainty, information, or physical closeness for love to matter. The beloved becomes a spiritual reality that helps him remain human in a place designed to make people forget humanity. This matters because the camp tries to shrink every prisoner into immediate need. Food, warmth, avoiding punishment, getting through the next hour. Love widens the inner world again. It reminds Frankl that the person is more than appetite and fear. To love someone is to recognize a value that the camp cannot fully confiscate. The body may be trapped in one place, but attention can still turn towards someone whose existence gives life meaning. The second road to meaning is future task. Frankl repeatedly notices that people need something still expected from them. A person may be sustained by a child, a manuscript, a responsibility, a promise, a piece of work, or a witness they must one day give. This is why the future is not just optimism. A vague hope that things will improve can collapse. A concrete future task can command a person. You are still needed. Something remains unfinished. No one else can answer this exact call in your place. Here, Frankl reverses the usual self-help question. We often ask, what do I want from life? The book says the more serious question is, what does life want from me? That does not mean life is easy to interpret. It means meaning is discovered in responsibility. Each situation asks for a response. Each person has a set of tasks, relationships, and possible acts that cannot simply be copied from someone else's life. Meaning is personal because responsibility is personal. This is why Frankl distrusts broad formulas for the meaning of life. Asking for one universal answer is like asking for the one best chess move without seeing the board. The right move depends on the position. In the same way, the meaning of a life depends on the concrete situation, the person involved, the obligations present, and the possibilities still open. The answer has to be lived, not merely stated. The book names three main paths by which meaning can be found. First, by creating a work or doing a deed. This is the meaning of contribution, making something, serving someone, completing a task. Second, by experiencing something or encountering someone, especially through love. This is the meaning of reception, being opened by beauty, truth, nature, art, or another person. Third, by the attitude taken toward unavoidable suffering. This is the most severe path, and Frankl treats it with care because it should never be used to romanticize pain that could be removed. That last distinction is critical. If suffering is avoidable, the meaningful response may be to remove it. If a disease can be treated, treat it. If injustice can be resisted, resist it. Frankl's point applies when suffering cannot be eliminated. Then the remaining question is whether the person can still bear witness to a value. Can grief become fidelity? Can limitation become patience? Can failure become humility? Can fear become courage? Not automatically, not easily, but possibly. A useful way to hear this is to imagine two questions. The first is, why is this happening to me? Sometimes that question matters, but often it traps us in a court with no answer. The second is, given that this is happening, what responsibility is still alive? That question does not pretend the pain is fair. It looks for the next act of meaning. Maybe the act is caring for someone else. Maybe it is telling the truth. Maybe it is enduring treatment. Maybe it is asking for help without surrendering dignity. Frankl also warns against measuring meaning by emotional intensity. A meaningful duty may feel ordinary. A person waiting at home, a piece of work, a daily responsibility, or a quiet promise may not look dramatic from the outside. But meaning does not need applause. It needs specificity. It needs a person who says, this task is mine, this love matters, this response is required of me now. The limitation is that meaning cannot be forced by someone else. You cannot throw a slogan at a grieving person and call it help. Frankl's approach asks for reverence toward the individual situation. The task is to help a person discover a concrete meaning, not to prescribe one from a distance. That is why the book remains psychologically serious rather than merely inspirational. Frankl's language of responsibility also protects the book from becoming vague spirituality. Meaning is not only a feeling of depth. It is often an obligation. Someone is waiting. Something is unfinished. A promise has not been kept. A piece of work still needs a hand. That makes meaning concrete. You do not need to solve the entire meaning of the universe before you can answer the meaning of Tuesday morning. The book's view of love is also more demanding than romance. Love is the ability to see another person's essence, possibility, and irreplaceable value. In camp conditions, Frankl's love for his wife does not depend on usefulness. She is not a tool for his survival, even though remembering her helps him survive. She is a person whose existence reveals that life still contains value beyond immediate pain. This has a practical consequence. If meaning comes through love, then some of the most meaningful acts in life will look inefficient. Visiting someone, listening patiently, caring for a child, staying faithful to a family duty, or honoring the dead may not improve a public metric. But for Frankl, these acts can be central because they answer a human call that no spreadsheet can fully measure. Future orientation works the same way. The future that sustains a person does not have to be grand. It may be one conversation that must happen, one book that must be written, one family member who needs care, one apology that must be offered, one skill that must be learned, one witness that must be given. The power comes from specificity. A vague future says, maybe things improve. A concrete task says, you are still required. Frankl's reversal, life questioning us, is helpful because it reduces self-absorption without erasing the self. When life becomes painful, the mind naturally turns inward and asks, why me? Why now? Why this? Those questions are human. But if they become the only questions, the person may sink into endless argument with reality. Responsibility asks a different question. What answer can I give now? A small example makes the idea clearer. Suppose a person loses a job. The first layer is pain, fear, embarrassment, anger, uncertainty. Frankl would not dismiss those feelings. But after the first shock, the situation begins asking questions. Who depends on me? What must be organized? What skill can be strengthened? What truth about my work life has become visible? What kind of person do I want to be during this loss? Or imagine illness. If treatment is possible, responsibility includes treatment. If support is needed, responsibility may include accepting help. If energy is limited, responsibility may include choosing what matters most instead of pretending nothing has changed. The meaningful response is not always heroic in the dramatic sense. Sometimes it is disciplined honesty about limits and values. This is why Frankl's view can be both empowering and sobering. It empowers because it says you are never merely a passive object of events. It sobers because it says your response matters, even when no audience is watching. Meaning is not a mood you wait for. It is a summons you answer, often before you feel ready. The book also refuses comparison as a path to meaning. Your task is not meaningful because it looks impressive beside someone else's task. It is meaningful because it is yours. A parent caring for a child, a student finishing a difficult course, a patient enduring treatment, a worker doing honest service, and a grieving person choosing not to become cruel may all be answering different but real meanings. Frankl's three roads, work, love, and courage in unavoidable suffering, can be used as a review of your own life. Where am I creating or contributing? Who am I loving or allowing myself to encounter deeply? What unavoidable difficulty is asking for a dignified attitude? If one road is blocked, another may still be open. If work collapses, love may remain. If pleasure disappears, courage may remain. If plans fail, responsibility may remain. The responsibility question also changes how we handle uncertainty. Many people postpone meaningful action until they know the whole plan. Frankl's view suggests that the whole plan is rarely given. What is given is the next demand of the concrete moment. The next responsibility may be small, but it is real. In that sense, meaning is discovered step by step. A life purpose is not always a lightning strike. Sometimes it is a trail made by answering the next honest obligation. This matters for suffering because pain often narrows time. When a person is suffering, the future can feel too large to face. Frankl's approach does not require solving the entire future at once. It asks for a future point, a task, a person, or a value strong enough to create direction. Even one unfinished responsibility can keep the future open. The question becomes not, can I imagine a perfect life? But, what still needs me enough that I should continue? Love, in this framework, also protects against the illusion that meaning must be self-created from nothing. The beloved calls meaning out of the person. A child, spouse, friend, parent, student, patient, neighbor, or even a stranger in need can become a living question. The question is not, what mood do I prefer? It is, what does love require now? That requirement can be tiring, but it can also rescue life from emptiness. Frankl's account of work is similarly concrete. Meaning through work is not only career success. It includes any deed that realizes a value. Repairing something, teaching something, writing something, caring for a place, defending a principle, serving a customer honestly, or building a small order where there was disorder. The scale is not the point. The point is whether the deed answers a real possibility that life has placed before this person. A final caution belongs in this episode. Responsibility should not be confused with carrying everything alone. Sometimes the responsible act is to ask for help, accept care, report danger, leave an abusive situation, or admit weakness before it becomes collapse. Frankl's philosophy is not rugged isolation. It is answerability. And sometimes the right answer is communal. Let others help carry what one person cannot carry alone. Thank you for listening. This second part gives us the central movement of Frankl's thought. Do not wait for life to explain itself before you live responsibly. Look for the person, task, beauty, or burden that is asking for your answer. Final close. Meaning is not a decoration added after life becomes comfortable. Meaning is often the reason a person can continue before comfort returns.